Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. Today we're going to do a breakdown on Remington's Slugger Rifled Slug Hollow Point in 16 gauge. Now these were off the market for a pretty long time, about 4 years I'm pretty sure. So they aren't Remington slugs anymore. These are rebranded Federals, but we'll get into that whenever we break the slug down. But I guess going over the box, the updated Slugger box design does look pretty cool. It's not just plain green and yellow anymore. It actually has a deer on it, a picture of the slug, and yeah, it's just a little bit more fancy looking. The side of the box is our specs: 16 gauge 2 3/4 inch, 1600 FPS, 4/5 ounce, which is 0.80 on the scale. The back of the box is, oh, I had it right the first time, just a bunch of warnings. Who wants to read any of that, right? This side of the box is the same as the other, it's just our specs. The back of the box is, well, this side of it. If you guys want to read any of that, just pause it. But at the muzzle, these are rated at 1600 FPS for a total of 1,909 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. That's not bad, although we can get 16 gauge slugs to be a lot more powerful than that. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can get factory 16 gauge slugs that are more powerful than that. 4/5 ounce is kind of light for a 16 gauge slug in my opinion. 7/8 ounce or 1 ounce is a better choice. But I guess that's about it for the box, besides, you know, this side. Don't shoot these in a Damascus or twist barrel. Don't shoot them in chambers shorter than 2 3/4 inch. Dangerous to place a smaller gauge shell in a larger chamber. You know, basically don't drop a 28 gauge shell in a 16 gauge chamber, all that stuff. Don't place a 20 and 12, 12 and 8 gauge. Don't, you know. Anyway, moving on. Somewhere it says, yeah, there it is. Slugger rifled slugs are designed for optimum performance in smoothbore barrels. Rifled slugs may be fired through any choke. However, improved cylinder provides the best results. And that right there confirms that Foster slugs or rifled slugs are safe through any choke, even a full. That puts it to rest right there, guys. Remington would not put that on their box if it wasn't safe to do. Now, obviously, if you have a very thin barrel at your muzzle, don't shoot slugs in it if it's a full. That is just common sense. If you have a paper thin muzzle, slugs are a no-go. Foster slugs were designed to be shot through any choke. Anyway, here's what the shell looks like. Nice green. If it looks familiar to any of you guys that are Federal fans, well, it is familiar. This is a Federal shell. Everything is Federal except for the green. That's the only difference. We have a 209A primer. It is stamped Remington, although it's not. This is a 16mm brass plated steel head. Does have a roll crimp, as most slugs do, but that is a Federal slug in there. The shell does say Slugger 2 3/4 inch 70mm 4/5 ounce Remington 1050 bar. That's all it says. Oh yeah, can't forget today's snooze and drink combo is Caliber Plus Original. Stark means strong, and Coke Zero. It's empty. Okay, here's our slug. Don't mind the little bit of damage on it, but it does weigh right at 4/5 of an ounce. Actually, a little bit more, but that 5 or 6 10,000ths, I doubt it matters. But, yeah, nicked it a little bit with the needle nose pliers. Otherwise, this slug looks just fine. It does have a weird tag on the inside of it. I'm sure it's just something from the molding process, but the rifling is pretty well designed, or refined. That's not the right word either. Defined, not refined. But hollow point looks pretty good. Overall, the slug is in pretty good shape. I have seen some factory slugs that look terrible. Nope, this one looks pretty good. For a measurement on this, I'm getting 0.6320, so this is pretty well undersized for a 16 gauge slug. That's about what 16 gauge full choke diameter is, making these even safer for guns with full chokes. Looks like for a charge we have 25.4, so basically 25 and a half. of a ball powder that looks very similar to LS, although I'm sure it's not that powder. Just kind of resembles it, although that charge would make sense. Doubt it though. Above the powder, we have this purplish, it's purple, gas seal piece with a stem, for lack of a better word. That's kind of what it is, a stem. I have heard Federal rolls the stem down depending on what they're doing with it. This is the same piece of, I guess, gas seal that they use in target loads, game loads, same thing. And again, they roll it down depending on what they're doing, but does have a pretty average size gas cup. Powder reservoir, I think, is the appropriate term. I have an R written on it for Remington, which you guys will see why in just a moment. But above that, below the Slug, we just have a nitro card. A 1/4 inch nitro card. I pulled it out with a screw. And once again, an R written on it for Remington. So the reason I have the R's written on stuff is because I have a Federal opened up here. I did just unroll these with a pair of needle nose pliers. I didn't cut them or anything, just unrolled them. But let's get this Slug out of here. As you can see, the Federal Slug is exactly the same as the Remington. We will compare them side by side. Federal is on the left, Remington is on the right. As you guys can see, it is exactly the same Slug. I did do a breakdown previously on the Federal here, if you guys want to go watch that, but the only difference is the powder. The Federal has a flake powder that looks like, well, unique. This stuff looks like LS that was in the Remington. That is the only difference. Here's the bottom of the Slug. You can see up in them. They are identical at the bottom. Side view, identical. Rifling is the same. Hollow point cavities are the same. It's the same Slug. Here are the rest of the components. Remington on the left, Federal on the right. You can see everything in both are the exact same aside from the powder. This is, again, the Remington. You can see it is a ball powder. Hopefully it's kind of bright out here. Kind of hard to see my phone screen. And the Federal is a flake powder. That is the difference. Let's get a view side by side. Why not? I'm sorry the camera keeps going in and out of focus, but once again, Remington has a ball powder and the Federal has a flake powder. The components, including the Slug, are identical, and the hulls are identical. They are the same length, the same hull. You can see the plastic, the molding lines, splines, whatever you want to call it. The ribbing is exactly the same. Brass height is exactly the same. If I could line it up right, hold on. There you go. Brass height is exactly the same. We have the same 209A primer. It's not even a Remington primer anymore. And this may be a challenge to see, but the Remington now has a fiber base wad, just like the Federals always have. I wanted to show the Remington opened up next to a Federal to prove they are the same. In the 16 gauge group on Facebook, I posted a few pictures when I got these Remingtons and discovered that they were rebranded Federals. I had a light shining through the Remington hull right here. You could see the components inside, and I also showed the hollow point cavities being the same and the primers being the same. The shells were not opened up, but he was calling me a liar, that I was making up drama for clicks and something else. That Remington, he used to work for Remington, and the shells have never been made anywhere else. The green hull has always been the green hull. I don't know. He was calling me a liar and telling me I was making up drama for clicks, essentially. So I decided to open up a Federal right next to the Remington to prove that they are exactly the same. I have no reason to lie to anyone. Anyway, guys, I have them both rolled back up here. They went back together beautifully. I did accidentally touch the Federal Slug with a roll crimp tool. Whoops. It doesn't hurt anything, but there you go, guys. A breakdown on Remington Slugger 16 gauge rifled slug, hollow point, 1600 FPS, 4/5 ounce. I kind of am disappointed that these are no longer Remingtons. Although the Federal slugs are not bad, We will do a ranged video on these. We did do a range video on these right here, and we got, well, rather poor groups. Maybe we'll redo that. It was so bad I didn't want to post the video. But I do like the Slug. We have gotten good luck with them before. I don't know why whenever we turned the camera on, it just kind of went to crap. But yeah, we'll do a range video on these. So you guys that want to see that, well, it'll come. But anyway, guys, I guess that's going to end this one here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.